Okay, welcome to the channel. We got everybody here. So we're at Ninoy Aquino Park.
Yes.
And we'll be talking about why green belts are important and how they relate to farms and ranches. This bird right here is a Rahimani kite. So let's see if we can get, using a GoPro 12, trying to get good pictures of this. So pest control, birds like this are really good for pest control because predators like hawks, owls, snakes, fox, coyotes help control the population of rodents, rabbits, insects, and can damage crops, or that can damage crops or stored feed. Insect eating birds like swallows, bluebirds, and bats can help insect pests and keep them in check. And here in the Philippines they have dengue, which is a mosquito-borne disease that if you get it multiple times, it increases your chances of dying. So, you know, and dengue is kind of like Zika or malaria or whatever, or like Zika pretty much. But yeah, so birds like that are beneficial to the ecosystem, you know, especially in green belts and farms and ranches, because they take care of stuff that will harm crops. And right up there, that white thing in the tree, that is Curly, the Philippine eagle, which is said to be bigger than the American bald eagle and more dominant than the American bald eagle. But good bird to have around to keep little rodents and all that out of crops. But you know, come to war, the American eagle is going to beat the Philippine eagle. But you know, but if the birds actually fight, Philippine eagle will dominate the American bald eagle. And right here we got a bird sitting right up next to the gate, but yeah, she's paying attention. But anyways, when it comes to pollination and plant diversity, bees, butterflies, moths, and certain birds like hummingbirds will pollinate fruit trees, vegetable crops, and flowering plants and pastures. So you know that, and with bees creating honey, you know, in green belts like this, it'll help keep down the insect population. But you know, with this being Metro Manila and it being the concrete jungle, there's just not very many birds in the wild around here because there's just no habitat for them. But on a farm, you know, that's really good because, you know, you can, if you want to get into beekeeping while farming or ranching and sell it for additional income, that is always an option. I don't know if you guys can see this big snake right here, but over here, big old albino boa constrictor, looks like. The words are really faded, but even down here there's another big old albino. But soil health and nutrient cycling, burrowing animals such as gophers, prairie dogs, armadillos, mice, and rats are really good for, you know, they can damage infrastructure or create hazards for livestock, so they're not a good thing to have around. And here in the Philippines, rats are the size of damn chihuahuas, and even the cats won't even mess with them. So basically dogs are the ones that are killing the rats here. Dung beetles break down manure, recycling nutrients, and help control fly population. And you know, wherever there's manure, there's a heavy abundance of flies. So dung beetles are essentially good to have around. And certain wildlife species spread seeds through their droppings, like a majority of the birds. There's some birds in the background. If you can't hear them, we'll get to that here shortly. I don't know how to zoom in on this, but that bird right there, and there's one right there above me. So water quality and land management. Wetland associated wildlife like frogs and waterfowl can indicate a healthy water systems. Beavers are sometimes destructive to infrastructure and can create ponds that benefit biodiversity and recharge the groundwater. But with pond water, with beaver pond water, it's usually not good, because a lot of the times it'll carry a parasite called Giardia, and with Giardia you'll have to take medication for life, and you'll have really bad diarrhea and stomach cramps. So you'll end up looking like a Victoria's Secret model if you drink Giardia ridden water. And overpopulation of certain species near creeks, deer, or feral pigs can cause erosion and degrade water quality through overgrazing or rooting. Metro Manila, polluted water, not exactly created by wildlife, it's created by people, and people just don't care about the water or animals that live in it or rely on it for a source of water. So yeah, just be mindful, throw your trash in the trash can, not in a creek, river, pond, or whatever. So there's some iguanas in there on the boardwalk. Those are like the best ones that I can see. Oh, and there's some over here too. See if I can get over better. Some right up there on the logs. So potential hazards and conflicts that can happen in greenbelts and farms and ranches. I'll just keep, if you notice, I'm keeping things on the animals. But predators on livestock, coyotes, wolves, big cats, and even feral dogs can kill cows, lambs, and poultry. In the US, coyotes are really bad. The first case that I've ever heard of somebody getting attacked by a coyote was probably like in the mid-90s. Lizards are getting active, but the first time I heard about coyotes attacking people was like in the mid to late 90s, where there was a lady that didn't live too far from where I grew up, that she went to Chuck Mill and was attacked by coyotes. And a lot of people are losing cats, the coyotes, and fox are really bad at taking care of poultry. But here in the Philippines, Komodo dragons and eagles and owls are going to be like the biggest danger of the poultry, mostly. Crop damage, deer, wild pigs, and rabbits. And turkeys should be on the list too. But I know that in Wisconsin, a lot of farmers they get crop insurance on their stuff, and I've heard of people getting like 150 agricultural tag, like at least 150 agricultural tags to kill deer, and I think that those tags are even used on turkeys also. So a lot of farmers, when they would be out doing field work, they'll have guns on them so that they can shoot deer and turkeys that are destroying their crops. And raccoons are really bad too. But here in the Philippines, I'm not sure what's really the biggest threat to crops. I would just assume like goats and pigs. In the US, pigs are responsible for like well over $1 billion worth of damages to crops, and iguanas are too in California and Florida. Disease transmission, again, spread illnesses like avian influenza. That's like the only one I can pronounce. But CW is like another big thing. Chronic waste. CWD is like the real big thing in the States among deer in a lot of states, and CWD is chronic waste disease, which they believe is originated from from like farm raised deer, elk that got into the wild. So that's where they figured that to come from. And I got one more section to cover, so I'll find another good animal to go and do the last part on. And right down here in the water we got an alligator, or a crocodile I should say, my bad. So the last one is cultural and economic values. Wildlife can contribute to ecotourism or hunting leases, providing extra income for ranchers. In some western states they have BLM lands, which is Bureau Land Management, and that's where farmers or ranchers can go and lease lands and take their livestock out there. The Philippines has that too. You know, where they'll have anywhere from like 5 hectare to 500 hectare. So the bigger property is more for like your big companies that are into raising beef or pork or whatever. A healthy biodiverse ranch ecosystem often supports better long-term productivity by keeping pest species in check naturally. So, you know, a lot of farmers and ranchers, you know, they'll plant stuff that is generally good for, let me get this wrong, but you know, farmers and ranchers, they'll plant crops and like different grasses that are good for their livestock, you know, that they'll feed them, and which are also good for wildlife. You know, a lot of farmers that they won't destroy fence line because that's good natural habitat for rabbits and mice and snakes and other animals, you know. So, you know, and a lot of farmers, they'll even get corn seed or soybean seed from places like Ducks Unlimited, Quail Unlimited, and the catch with that is you gotta typically leave that up for habitat to feed pheasants and other wildlife. But you can even get some stuff from Ducks Unlimited for ducks and geese and all that other stuff. So, you know, it's, you know, and for like the CRP grass or wildlife, you know, you'll get money off of it. But, you know, the Philippines, I don't think they do anything like that. You know, they're just, you know, there's really no hunting here because the Philippine deer is endangered, and there's another animal that's endangered. They got, you know, there's wild pigs and wild goats in the Philippines. You don't allow them, you know, they're not allowed to hunt them, you know, but hunting would, you know, would be a good thing because you got to keep things in check. But, you know, it's just not a thing here in the Philippines. But, you know, even you know, fishing is like a really big industry here. You know, in the US, Canada, you have to buy a fishing license because that money will go back into the habitat for fish and keep fish nurseries or hatcheries in business for restocking. But that's all for this video. See you guys in the next one.